I rode in front of the carriage and grabbed the handle that looked like a rod. If you send magical energy here, you can share your senses with the carriage. The handle comes out and becomes the link that connects the carriage. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now, if you push the handle forward slightly while draining the magic, the carriage moves forward according to the operation of my magic powers. Wow, this is it. The higher the elemental efficiency, the easier the carriage moves. Even I am a student in the Faculty of Magic at the Marchant Academy. Even for just one semester, he received a systematic education and concentrated on magic training. To add to the exaggeration, the carriages I drive will provide guests with an unwavering level of comfort. I pulled the wagon with Eden sitting next to him. The cool summer breeze brushed past my skin. It was refreshing. As they drove the wagon, it was common to see people in white knight uniforms. It was the Imperial Knights who came out to investigate the frequent occurrence of demons. This one is for that little chicken owl. Originally, there was an unwritten rule that no power should be involved in the academy. This situation was so serious that the Imperial family had to intervene. It was good to see just how much hardship the bachelor's workforce was going through right now. It was unfortunate. You'll be fine. I should be good at sales, eventually. My wagon arrived at the business district. There was a lot of floating population there. The people of the Gerber Empire are living in the independent economic system the Academy has built. I shed a capitalist smile at them and sent a business message. There has never been a carriage like this before. Is this a bed or a carriage? We promise you a comfortable ride without shaking. The carriage operated by the students of the Marchant Academy. Use it now. Kuwung. Kuwu. When Eden's rhythmic cries were added after my promotional message, it became a pretty plausible sound. It was like a scene from an addictive commercial on TV. It was said that a student at the Marchant Academy was driving a carriage, so the attention of passersby was drawn. Maybe it's because there are rare people who promote themselves while shouting that they drive a carriage in the first place. Student, give me a ride. The first guest was a pleasant-looking lady. She told the story of how sad that the students these days don't use her bakery. I responded to that and chatted happily. Student, it was fun. It's because I'm a student at the Marchant Academy, so the ride is really comfortable. Thank you for using us. The driver's part-time job is a performance system. From the gel earned, only the carriage rental fee and a certain fee are deducted and the rest is received. I had to train and work part-time, so I needed to earn a lot of gel in the shortest possible time. The salesperson Isaac runs, there has never been a carriage like this before. Is this a bed or a carriage? Student, here. Nep. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing and this belonged to Huehue. My promotional message was having a huge impact. Everywhere I went, people were curious and wanted to ride. There's also a rare tendency for a student at the Marchant Academy to work as a driver. If it were me, I'd be surprised. In no time. We welcomed our 8th guest. The opponent was a mother and daughter. The mother seemed to be in trouble as the 2-year-old baby was crying while riding the carriage. I'm sorry. Student, my daughter couldn't stop crying. Dump. Must dump. The sound of my daughter crying was reminiscent of a siren. You're going to be a big kid. Ice generation ice attribute. One. I used Generate Ice in the air and immediately dispelled the magic, scattering light blue powder in succession. In a running wagon, as the beautiful powder continued to flow out the window, the baby looked startled. The baby stretched out her arms toward the carriage window and showed curious eyes. I caught the baby's attention by creating a shining powder over and over again. Thank you. Student, it doesn't matter. It's just a kind of service. Next to him, Eden responded with Kuwung. The mother and daughter seemed to have a job in the administrative office of the Marchant Academy. An administrative person is his younger brother, but he couldn't see him for a while, so he came to have a cup of tea and see his face. Unfortunately, that wish will not come true. Administrative personnel are, I'm going through all sorts of problems in my bachelor's degree right now. After leaving the mother and daughter guests, I stared intently at the Bartos Hall building for a while. Recalling what happened in the ordeal of Frost, emotions crossed my mind. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, apart from those feelings, there was something to think about rationally. I'd like to use Claire's for surveillance, as much as possible. I wanted to use Clearly to monitor Alice. However, it was a very dangerous act to look at Alice itself, because you can meet the extra bad ending. 11 sudden death. The Cheshire is very good at detecting presence. If I see Alice as Claire, Cheshire will immediately sense a strange gaze on my master and come to kill me. Not now. By the way, Alice was home, so I looked into the student council room with Clearly. But there was nothing special. Well, it's something to think about later. I started pulling the wagon again. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Night. After leaving the wagon at the bus stop and paying the daily wages, he returned to the lower class dormitory, Doris Hall. Profits were pretty good, considering the cost of living. With this momentum, if you work for just 3 weeks, you will be able to cover the tuition fee, including the remaining gel. After finishing all the training, I slept soundly in the dormitory. It's morning. Right after waking up, I stretched my left arm forward. The 8-star working horse contract team engraved on the left wrist disappeared after becoming a summoning team. Concentrating on the flow of mana as it is, I imagined a small form of Ice and Snow Dragonhild. Suddenly, the summoned summoner of the fellow horse appeared from the left wrist and began to emit a faint light blue light. I feel like something is about to be summoned, just like when I summoned Eden. However, as if blocked by a thick barrier in front of his nose, something that was about to pop out could not come out. I lowered my arms. What I was trying to do was to summon Ice and Snow Dragonhild in a small form. Fortress. It was repeated every morning when his magical power was at its maximum. According to the setting of Magic Knight of Marchen, it is said that when summoned in reverse, it becomes a form of mana and enters the space of the owner's mind. Because of this, I know that by recombination of mana, it is possible to make the shape of a workhorse smaller. It is possible to reduce the amount of magical power consumed when summoning and the amount of maintenance magic by making a small workhorse when the owner has the same attribute. However, the elemental efficiency of the level and its properties is heavily involved here. At my level and elemental efficiency level, it was impossible to summon Ice and Snow Dragon, even in a very small form. I want to talk. After contemplating what to say to Ice and Snow Dragon, he had come to a conclusion. After telling everything honestly, let's ask Bing and Snow Dragon for help, because I didn't want to use my power to deceive him. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huihui. My heart was constantly being delivered to Ice and Snow Dragon, but it wouldn't be as good as talking directly. Well, let's go to a wagon now. I'm going to try the Ice and Snow Dragon summoning tomorrow as well. I changed into my driver's uniform and left the dormitory. It's the 5th day since I started working part-time on a carriage. The academic atmosphere today was not so bad. Not only the academic staff, but also the Imperial Knights were busy. I read their psychological state and could guess why. Cerebrate. The Archmage and the original King of Lightning. It is said that he comes to the Marchen Academy in the name of investment. Currently, Marchen Academy was losing investors due to frequent demonic appearances. This means that the Marchen Academy coin graph has reached a trough while drawing a downward sloping curve, but among the high-ranking aristocrats. There must be rumors that the princess will enter the school next year. Not to mention, even saints and shamans are going to come. It would not be strange if the emperor found out such information and bought the Marchen Academy coins full low. The problem is, why is he coming directly? Why? Magic Knight of Marchen. There was absolutely no such thing during the summer vacation of the first year. The Imperial Knights Templar and the academic staff were in a tense atmosphere. Presuming that there must be a hidden reason, first of all, he is not a villain, not even a sailor. To put it bluntly, a neutral standpoint. Therefore, his appearance did not cause serious problems. But because something different from the original scenario happened, I couldn't help but be nervous, because you have to take it as a sign that something is twisted. It seemed that now was not the time to run a wagon business. After moving far away with the wagon, I hid in the alley between the academy buildings and activated clairvoyance. Clearance neutral attribute. 7. I looked at the scenery of the main entrance of the academy, the situation in which the Imperial Knights Templar and the academic staff lined up and opened the way with their heads bowed. There are very few nobles who deserve this kind of treatment. Whether it's a member of the imperial family like the princess, or a saint of the Helais Church serving the manhala that has been given to me, or the original king, the King One's luxurious carriage, in harmony with purple and gold, entered the main gate of the academy. It was a magnificent carriage to the extent that I could realize just how insignificant my carriage was. The luxurious wagon was accompanied by bodyguards in purple uniforms. The men opened the carriage door, and a man got out of the carriage. A man full of dignity in a black robe, purple hair with round bangs, colorful eyes with electricity flowing through them. Real brain genes. Really? Why did you come here? Starting with the deputy commander of the Fenrir Knights of the 4th Division of the Imperial Knights Templar. The entire knights paid their respects to the emperor, since the commander is currently in Bayand, the capital of the empire. The vice captain was the highest rank among the knights here. The heirloom looked like he had no interest in greetings from the Knights Templar. And suddenly, he turned his gaze towards me. I hurriedly unlocked it clearly. Crazy? Something big happened. I was kinda anxious, so I tried to stop watching it for a bit. But did you get caught right away? I had to make an alibi. I hurriedly got into the wagon and started running, summoning Eden and throwing out business comments, as if it was a carriage business from the beginning. There has never been a carriage like this before. Is this a bed or a carriage? I promise you a comfortable ride without shaking. Quagaga River. Wow. But the speed at which the thunderstorm reached me was as fast as a flash of light. Lightning struck in front of my eyes. It was a real lightning bolt. I had to force the carriage to stop. In the blink of an eye, the thunderstorm appeared and stood at the spot where the lightning struck. Zal Dragoniac. Love. 199. Race. Human. Attribute. Lightning. Risk. Psychology. Several lightning bolts scattered in the air. The thunderbolt stares at me with eyes fluttering with lightning mana. Cold sweat dripped down. Fuck it! When the Zabrak carriage entered the main gate of the Marchen Academy, the original Lord of Lightning, Zal Dragoniac, felt the presence of magic. The thunderbolt. Wait a minute. Cheeky. This one is for that little chicken owl. One of the realms of the Archmage. Elemental transformation. Zaul was able to transform himself into a form of elemental magic. The Imperial Knights were terrified when they saw Zaul trying to transform into a lightning element. Come back soon. After saying that, Zaul soared into the sky. He took the form of lightning and reached at once to Isaac, who wrote the clairvoyance. It was following the footsteps of magic. Huh? Zaul narrowed his eyes. Silver hair. Red eyes. A man with the appearance Akel described. I thought it was unusual magic, but it must have been this guy. I don't think we'll see each other so soon. Huh? I feel more energetic than I ever imagined. The man in front of him must have been the next Ice Emperor candidate. Why was he driving a carriage in a driver's uniform? I do not know. However, he predicts the frequent appearance of demons, and after entering Marchion Academy, he is a person who kills demons while hiding his identity. It probably wasn't just for making money, or for frivolous reasons such as driving a wagon would help improve mana management. The reason Zaul decided to see Isaac himself was because he had an eye for it. Wanted to check what is Isaac's essence, how much power he has, and whether his values or beliefs are distorted. How should I view him in the future? And depending on what kind of judgment you made, the reason for coming here would also be different. As scheduled, Zaul decided to talk to Isaac. The best way would be to use the wagon pulled by Isaac. Burn me. Yes. Command line. Rejection was the nuance of never accepting. Yes. You were a guest? The little boy answered while sweating in a cold sweat. It was because I decided that I had to match the rhythm of the brainstorming system. Hey, I promise you a comfortable ride without shaking. Zaul ignored Isaac's business remarks and got into the wagon. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Much cramped and poorer environment than the Jabrok wagon I had just ridden. Well, it didn't matter. Zaul crossed his arms and crossed his legs, looking out the window in front of the driver, Isaac's head. Drive with dignity. The destination is the main entrance to the academy. Yes. Yep. Isaac pulled his wagon and began to make his way towards the main entrance of the academy. Zaul's eyes twinkled with lightning mana. He narrowed his eyes. Also, Isaac, how can you not know the identity of the light blue energy flowing from that man? Those who have reached the apex of each elemental attribute will have a large aura that matches them. The original king of fire, Yomje Yandi. The original king of water, Doje Tao Di. The lord of the wind, the wind emperor, and Isaac in front of you. Just like that man, even if you have reached the state of an archmage, it is possible to penetrate the essence of things like Dorothy Hart Nova's thousands of things. What is hidden in the essence of Isaac, with countless eyes stuck in it? It seems like it could swallow everything in this world. It was a monster with a massive magical power that was close to infinite. Go away. As the unknown monster in Isaac's essence said so, Zaul felt a creepy sensation running down his spine. He, who has risen to the rank of the strongest in the element of lightning in this world, feels fear, even for a brief moment. How many emotions are you talking about? However, ironically, the amount of magical power felt by Isaac itself was too small. Since Zaul has a transcendent mana sensing ability that can detect mana that is not being emitted, he was able to measure Isaac's maximum amount of mana. What do you mean? This man? Zaul caressed, stroking his chin. Ice and Snow Dragon, the owner of the Frost Scythe, an aura that can only be possessed by being the apex of the elemental ice attribute. The unknown being hidden in the essence, that monster whose strength cannot be fathomed has an incredibly low amount of magical power. Does that make sense? In other words, it was clear that Isaac was manipulating the maximum amount of mana as we talked with Akel last time, perhaps to hide his identity. This is undoubtedly the state of an archmage like himself. It was also worth going to the academy and checking it out in person. If I had known that he was such a terrifying man, then I had to force myself to find out. Is Isaac a threat to himself or a being to promote harmony? This would determine Zaul's future course. Are you a student? Yes. Yes. My name is Isaac. You don't have a surname? Yes. I am a commoner. What are you going to do when you graduate? I want to become a wizard. That's why I came here to the Faculty of Magic. It bothered me to see a man like that reciting an ordinary career path. Zaul decided to change the direction of the question. What kind of wizard do you want to be? Yes, even a wizard has a wide career path. Nobility's advisory wizard, horse tower wizard, mercenary wizard, adventurer wizard, etc. And even within it, the types of wizards are again divided according to beliefs and values. A wizard who uses magic to protect others. A wizard who uses magic to satisfy his own self-interest. What kind of wizard do you want to become? This one is for that little chicken owl. Only the sound of the wheel of the wagon resounds regularly. Isaac was in trouble, then answered, I haven't decided on a specific career path, but I have some thoughts on what kind of wizard I will become. It may sound like a joke, but if the evil god Nefid was defeated and he remained in this world, Isaac would target the wizard for a living. If so, what kind of wizard would you be? It seems like drinking kimchi soup, but after going through the ordeal of frost, Isaac was able to organize his thoughts. I want to be a proud wizard, The little boy replied with a smile. At the final gateway to the ordeal of Frost, Isaac remembered his mother in Korea. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My mother told me to refrain from soda drinks because my bones are weak. A mother who always nags about her worries. If there was a side dish I needed, my mother made it and put it in the refrigerator in her bedroom. When he returned home, the mother prepared the food that her son wanted to eat so that it was bent. My mother, who sometimes sent me messages that I love her. A mother who believed in her son. You passed away while you were still studying for the exam. When Isaac's world fell one, it seemed to overlap with the final gateway to the trial of Frost. So, if you're going to live your life, wouldn't it be better to become a person you can be proud of to the person you care about most? Right. Zoel closed his eyes. It was enough to answer that Isaac's values and way of thinking were not deviated. There was no sign of lying. There was still a long way to go to the main gate. But it seemed like the time had come for him to step back. Cheeky. Zoel escaped through the window in the form of lightning mana. Astonished, Isaac instinctively shouted, "What about Gel?" But Zoel had already gone far away. Quagga River. Lightning struck the front door of the academy. The academic staff and the Imperial Knights were greatly astonished, but the Zebrock guards had a dull expression as if it were a familiar sight. The lightning bolts became lightning elemental mana, gathered in the air, and took the form of Zal. With a dazed expression on his face, Zal headed to the Zabrock carriage. The ball is finished. Don't move. Yes. Soon Zal gets into the wagon. The Zabrock wagon began to move again with the guards. The Imperial Knights Templar and the academic staff only bowed their heads with bewildered expression. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat, not Wagon. Zal sat in his luxurious seat and began to gaze out the window at the academy. On the other side of it, a knight was sitting in a small place with a sword on his leg. Hera was Zal's closest aide and a knight of the guard. It was nice to see it in person. It was not in vain. Have you met the next Ice Emperor candidate? The Emperor nodded his head. He doesn't seem like a worthy enemy. The second problem was the tenacity that could not be measured in depth like an abyss. The fact that Isaac, the strong man's thinking was no different from any other innocent student, was complicating Zal's mind. If you're that strong, there's bound to be something distorted somewhere. It just wasn't bad. If one day Isaac appears as the new original king in front of the original kings including himself, Zoel didn't think he would feel too bad about it. In the southwestern part of Gerber, a magnificent dark cloud stayed in the same spot all the time. The color of the dark clouds is very bright because the purple thunder is always shining. Under that cloud, the earth is like a lightning hell, because lightning strikes the ground countless times in seconds. If you watch it from afar, you will get tired of seeing the purple lightning that is engraved in the air at every moment. That cloud was a nest created by the high-density magic of the Thundercreed. This one is for that lil chicken owl. One day, the Great Witch of Cheonong came to the Thundercreed through countless lightning bolts. She suggested that she become her own workhorse and travel the world. She's a really fun girl. Braincreed thought, after a long journey with her, eventually. The Thundercreed was cursed by the evil dragon Orcus, a black dragon made of rotten human corpses. In order to suppress the destructive instinct infested by the evil dragon's curse, he had to fight a fierce battle that seemed to tear his body from the inside out. If the new owner, Luz Altania, had not suppressed the constant Thundercreed with a large amount of lightning mana, the fight would not have been able to continue for years. At last, Isaac's action freed the Thundercreed. Still, his fight was not over. You still don't remember. When fighting with Ground, wasn't it Isaac? To let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Marchen, Academy's Faculty of Magic Living Building. The highest-ranking dormitory, Charles Hall. There was a question that had been repeated over and over again for weeks. A voice as soft as the moonlight contained the question. It was the voice of Luz Altania, a girl with long rose gold hair. Luz was sitting in front of the dressing table in her room, looking in the mirror and wearing a morpho butterfly-colored headdress. Her hair, as fine as silk, was well combed, and her elegant makeup was in good condition. It was the maid skill of the Altania family who was sent to the academy. Luz didn't even open her heart to the maid, so the relationship between the two of them was clearly separated. Should I say that it is extremely biased towards the ball? This one is for that little chicken owl. On the dressing table sat a grouse in the shape of a small crow. It was an 8-star workhorse who was reduced in size. The creed of the brain, Gaul. Luz is a level 150 genius, born with a natural amount of magical power, and is in a very good state of being able to respond with a brain creed. After summoning the brain creed that had become normal in front of the academic staff last time, and mastering that sense, it was to make the brain creed so small without much trial and error. The creed of the brain only shed a cold sweat. It was black, so even if it got wet with sweat, it didn't show. After being freed from the curse, after reuniting with Luz, they shared many stories that they couldn't tell each other in the past. I laughed, and I felt a lingering aftertaste in my heart. And there was something in the conversation that made the brain creed particularly difficult. It was the story of the grave. I've said this a few times. No matter how much I think about it, I can't remember. Brain creed. Gall, who has been stating the same answer for weeks with a loud voice. It was obvious that Isaac had a reason to hide his identity, much less he is the benefactor of the Brain Creed. The benefactor was thinking not to cause problems that would bother him. Even if Luce came out with a coercive attitude, saying, "Blow everything you know," the Thunder Creed was willing to take the penalty of disobeying orders. It would hurt terribly, but he would endure it for the sake of the benefactor who freed him from the curse. However, in everyday life, Luce respected the will of the Brain Creed and did not issue any orders, just a request or a question. Should I consider myself lucky? This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, the fact that Luce was suffering from the grung problem was only a pity for the Brain Creed. It was because she was an invaluable existence to the Brain Creed. What if Isaac and Grung are the same person? Nah. Brain Creed asked the question he was holding inside. Luce lowered her aquamarine eyes. Blush rises on his cheeks, and the corners of his lips tremble. It was in stark contrast to the way he usually frowned or maintained a poker face when he met people. I am ready to pour my heart out at any time, no matter how much I think about it. All I can see is Isaac's Grung. I hope you come up with some convincing evidence. Luce's feelings for Isaac are something between friendship and love. She was almost certain that Isaac was Grung. However, it wasn't clear yet. So I was just suppressing the desire to leak out like a sweet scent. What is friendship? It's Luce who didn't even understand the answer to that question. At present, her emotions are very complicated. And the Brain Creed is a difficult one. The Creed of the Brain wanted to support the love of its owner. It feels like Luce would be happy to catch a man she likes and see them happily dating. So, if I close my eyes and say just one word, Isaac is green, I think I can cut Luce's intricate psychological knot with a single knife. The dory toward the benefactor grabbed the ankle of the Brain Creed like a chainsaw and did not let go. In the first place, if Isaac had been allowed to reveal his identity to Luce, he would have been the first to speak up. You really don't remember. Do you? Time and time again, my answer is the same. The Creed of the Brain was shattered in such a deep psychological conflict. The cold sweat showed no signs of stopping. That fierce inner battle puts the Brain Creed into a corner. Luce let out a low sigh with a disappointed face. Are you going to see Isaac? Better. I'm in trouble because I'm busy with the job of the Fort Isaac. We'll be able to see you at the training ground for a while in the evening. Bye. Shall we go see it now? Didn't he just say he's in trouble? I can't help it. I can't stand it anymore. I was happy to spend more time with Isaac as the vacation came, as Isaac became busy with his job as a coachman. The time they spent together was significantly reduced again. He had endured for so long, but now his patience had reached its limit. I already knew the taste of my friend. Now I can't turn back. He spoke as if he had fallen, but the content was so sound that he felt a sense of incongruity. Thunder. The defaulter bastard returned to his home country after talking with the headmaster Elena at the Bartos Pavilion about investment. I still wondered why he was there, but he didn't come to give power to the demons or to disturb me. I decided not to make it too complicated. If something unexpected happens in the future, I decided to use it as a piece of the puzzle to infer the reason and put my judgment on hold. As an aside, when he left my carriage, I felt a stronger sense of relief than anger. In the first place, he came after detecting my clairvoyance. So, if I used my life for the wages not paid by the bribery system, I felt like it was quite profitable. Let's say, is it a Hogu mind? Anyway, I'm glad it passed safely. If he had lifted a single finger, I would have gone straight to the underworld. I was working as a horseman today. As I was passing the macadam-style road, I saw a woman at the side of the road with her arms outstretched towards me, like hitchhiking. Is it to hide his identity? He covered his hair with a robe hat and wore blinding glasses to blur his face. But it was Luce Eltania. Elven. Race. Human. Attributes. Water. Lightning. Risk. X. Psychology. I want to be with you. Bow. I quickly figured out what he was thinking about hiding his identity. Luce knew I was working as a driver. It was because I told you about it while we were talking about it the other day. So, it seems that Luce wanted to increase the time with me by becoming a guest this time. However, he seemed worried that if Luce used the wagon and paid me for it, I might feel a burden. So it looked like he was hiding his identity. It's amazing. It was hard to ignore that feeling. I need to burn it. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, the pay will be accepted. Can you give me a 10% discount as a friend benefit? They parked the wagon and burned Luce. I greeted her cheerfully. Welcome. And she nodded her head quietly. Where are you going? Anywhere. A place overlooking the sea? I've adjusted it at best. Can't we just come up with a more specific plan? What do you do when you start with a destination like that? Hey, guest, you have to tell me which sea it is. Anywhere. With a view of the sea. And then I'll go to the coast of Castry. I repeated the same answer. So I answered whatever came to mind and started driving the carriage. I glanced at Lucy. Luce Eltania. Psychology. I'm glad I succeeded in hiding my identity from you. Luce's face was blurry because of the blinding glasses. However, the expression on her face as she wriggled the corners of her lips was pleasing to the eye. Shortly thereafter, water mana begins to condense in the air. My master, great success in deceiving Isaac. Bello, the little killer whale, exclaimed with joy. The guy was immediately reverse summoned. Luce Eltania. Psychology. I am desperate because I failed to hide my identity from you. I'll pretend I didn't hear. Sorry. Bello's appearance was too decisive to pretend not to notice here. I called out her name softly, as if I had just recognized Luce. Luce. Luce let out a small weeping sound and took off her recognition-blocking glasses and took off her robe hat. The figure of Luce with her rose gold hair hanging down was reflected in her eyes. She bowed her head and covered her face. It felt like despair. It has arrived toward the Akin Sea, the coast of Castri, where Luce summoned the Thundercreed in front of the academic staff. The grain of sand and the sunset-colored sea were shining brightly. I spread out all sorts of stories to relieve Luce's feeling, who had become dark after being discovered. Fortunately, Luce was happy just to be with me, and she quickly listened and responded that she was happy. It was fun to open the mouth. In the middle, Bello, Luce's little killer whale, came out and intervened in the conversation. Eden also responded to what I said with a whoosh. So the atmosphere was pleasant all the time while driving the carriage. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My whole body ached from driving the wagon while using my magic all day long. I also decided to take a break on the beach for a while. The setting sun was setting over the horizon, scattering the red afterglow. You came at a pretty good time. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Me, Luce, Eden, and Bello slowly walked along the sandy beach in the sea breeze. Bello and Eden were giggling and giggling at each other. Somehow, it looked like he was wrestling, but the stronger Bello was unilaterally knocking down Eden. Eden, try to win. Luce's fluttering rose gold hair reflected the glow of the sunset. She kept her hair fluttering in the sea breeze behind her ear and looked at the setting sun. Then, Luce secretly turned her gaze to me, looked straight ahead, bowed her head, and put on a soft smile. Luce Altania, psychology. I am very glad that I came to the sea with you. Dad's smile comes out of nowhere. If my daughter said, it's really fun to come to the sea with Dad. Of course, I've never had a daughter, so I don't know. Pleased, because I can be with Isaac without noticing other people. Luce's feather-like voice pierced the sea breeze and pierced my ears. Is it that good? Lucy smiled brightly and nodded her head. We talked about the same trivial things like that. The tabby cat that roamed the academy streets was cute, or that the quality of learning seems to have deteriorated because of vacation. Sitting side by side on the sandy beach, I began to gaze at the setting sun slowly over the horizon. It's going to be cold. Even this? Luce tried to take off the robe she was wearing. In the mood to put it on my shoulder, I hurriedly waved my hand, even though it was summer. It was late at night, and the sea breeze made me feel chilly. If you take off your robe, Luce will be cold. I took out 2 long blankets from the magic pocket, like Doraemon's 4D pocket, as if it were natural. It was something I took with me when I went to the Tantak underground cave. This one is for that little chicken owl. One of them was hung over Luce's shoulder. Luce smiles and wraps the blanket around her body without hesitation. It seems that as time goes by, your smile becomes more natural. I feel happy because I feel like my child is growing up. We quietly began to look at the edge of the setting sun dyed red. The blanket that covered the body provided adequate warmth in front of the cool sea breeze. It felt quite cozy. Isaac. Yes. I used to think that everyone was like a hedgehog. Luce began to confide in her in a calm voice. It feels like being stabbed by a thorn, even if you get a little closer. I hated it all. But the closer I am, the better I feel. Each and every word lingered in my ears like a lingering sound. Even now, I'm really happy. I feel that way. A whisper-like sound tickled my eardrums like a feather. As the vacation went on, I spent more time with Luce. Yes, she has been showing a lot of excitement lately. When I wrote Psychological Insight, it seemed that Luce only felt happy when she saw only me. Perhaps even me, the person involved, often felt better at the same time. It's still the same now. Even so, he still exudes a cold energy to people other than me. Every time it happened, I was so scared that I couldn't even say a word. I'm glad, replied with a smile, because I'm happy to be with you too. So, without a word, we got drunk on the afterglow of the setting sun. I glanced at Luce. She was in deep thought, reading the psychology. I found out that Luce was also feeling sad. He was probably reminiscing about his childhood, after losing the Great Witch of Heaven and Hansel's brother. Luce would go up to the roof of the Altania family house almost every day and watch the setting sun set over the horizon. If you recall what was described in Machen's Magical Night, yes, every time that happened, I can't even grasp how heavy thoughts Luce must have chewed. After that, Luce, who was always alone, was probably the only person who opened her heart after thinking like that. I realized anew what it means to watch the sunset at the beach with Luce. Luce is no longer alone. Although he regrets being her friend at first, he still feels nothing but deep affection for her. I don't really want her to be lonely. So, now I feel happy to be with Luce. Luce turned her head to look at me as if she felt my gaze, and then started laughing so hard that her cheeks were blushing. I laughed bashfully just like her. The sound of Bello and Eden talking. The sound of the sea breeze. The sound of the rushing waves. I thought it was a pretty romantic atmosphere to spend a summer day in. Eventually, as if thinking of something, Luce took out a small bag from her arms and held it to me. A squeaking sound was heard. It looks like it contains a lot of gel. Luce had a shy face, including today's pay. Contains a lot of gel. So, for the time being, can I monopolize Isaac's carriage? I felt a strong sense of incongruity, so I looked at Luce in the bag alternately. This is totally... No. Done? Just give me today's wages later. As a friend, I'll give you a 10% discount. You have to calculate it well. Huh. Luce is embarrassed when I refuse. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how indirectly it was, he could not conscientiously receive friend fees. Combat ability. Elemental Class 1, Ice. Elemental Fire B. Elemental Efficiency B. Elemental Synergy B. Elemental Series 2 locked. I am not Ian Fairytale. It's a fact I've recently realized. At first, I made a plan by recalling the memories of playing Magic Knight of Marchant, as I got used to the Constitution of Isaac, and followed the flow of the scenario. My thoughts gradually changed. In particular, the Ordeal of Frost was a decisive moment. It requires selection and concentration. But I was in a situation where I couldn't follow the strategy of Ian Fairytale. Weapons, for example. Since childhood, Ian has been constantly learning martial arts. Thanks to this, I was able to handle each elemental final weapon with outstanding excellence. But I am Isaac, the weakest by birth. It's too much to focus only on magic training and physical training. In reality, there was no time to learn even a weapon technique until the evil spirit was resurrected. In other words, it would be necessary to specialize my abilities only in magic. Also, if there is insufficient power, it would be better to reinforce it by pouring a little more energy into strengthening the workhorse. In any case, it means that a plan suitable for Isaac's body is essential. Are you available today? Doris Hall, a lower class dormitory. The morning sun was streaming in through the window. I sat on the bed and stretched my left arm forward. I tried to summon Ice and Snow Dragonhild every morning, but failed every time. However, now that the elemental efficiency level has been raised from B class to B class, there is hope that maybe it can be done. Imagine the 8-star familiar, Ice and Snow Dragonhild, in a very small form. Try to summon Ice and Snow. Dragonhild's summoning circle appeared on the left wrist and started to emit a light blue light. As usual, the Ice and Snow Dragon did not come out because they were blocked by a barrier, but a very small hole. If you create even a small gap in the wall, you will be able to pull it out somehow. Please, break the barriers like a hammer. Imagining such an image, I put all my heart into mana management to create a hole for the Ice and Snow Dragon to come out. Yet, it felt like something was escaping, like a small hole in the concrete wall leaking air. I guessed that I succeeded in summoning the Ice and Snow Dragon. Woo woo woo. A faint pale blue sphere rose from the summoning circle. It was like a glowing firefly. The fact that it was Ice and Snow Dragonhild was immediately recognized. Ice and Snow Dragonhild. L1. Race. Beast. Attribute. Ice. Risk. Act. Psychology. I am relieved to be able to talk to you. Finally, he raised his hands like a pedestal to support the Ice and Snow Dragon. The spherical light did not feel any weight like a dandelion seed. Hilda, can you hear me? I hear you. Ice and Snow, Dragon's classical voice echoed in my head. Her voice was like a young girl in her late teens or early 20s. Can I ask what English it is? Ice and Snow Dragon's question had many implications. I held my breath quietly. I had to tell you what I wanted to say, even if my words hurt him mentally. It's unavoidable. Before that, there is something I must say. Recalling my resolve, I started talking with a serious face. I am not what you think I am. You called me Ice Emperor. That's not it. It's just a different species that can only be counted by demon. Talking about the system won't make you understand. I decided to skip the destroyer trait to the story that I am a different species. I'm sorry for disappointing you. It's not the person you wanted. There is no such thing as the reincarnation of ice cubes. I'm just an ordinary born weakest. Isaac. Ice and Snow Dragon remained silent. It was simply a small lump of light, so I couldn't see any expression on it. But it seemed like he was thinking deeply about what I said. I waited quietly for the little lump of light to speak. You are Ice is right. After a while, Ice and Snow Dragon denied my words in a confident tone. You are born with the soul of the Ice Emperor. Strictly speaking, it is a natural fact that you are not the Ice Emperor of 1,000 years ago. A person who has been reincarnated cannot be treated the same as a person from a previous life. Bing and Snow Dragon continued speaking in a clear voice, as if his heart had not been shaken in the slightest. No matter how much you deny it, I know. Don't ignore my eyes. Because it's not real. You are Ice Emperor. No. You are Ice Emperor. Not really. You are Ice Emperor. Not Hermione. Sit Pearl. If I said ice, it would be ice. Just give it a try and listen. When I heard the old woman's sweet tone, I was taken aback. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No. Sit Pearl. No. And you didn't know my name. No. That. I recalled the memory of calling Hild's name in the Trial Cave of Frost. At that time, my head was not spinning because I was adjusting to the frostbite's cold, so I just accidentally called my name. Anyway, I don't know where to start and how to explain this. It's clunky. So, thinking about what to answer, Bing and Snow Dragon did not wait and moved on to the next question. Done. It's the first time I've heard of a special constitution that only becomes stronger as a demon. Are you usually this weak in the first place? It's true. But to be honest, I wouldn't say that I'm weak. In short, wasn't this about asking you to look at yourself as you are now? Not the Ice Emperor of 1,000 years ago. Bing and Snowdragon interrupts my answer and organizes the conversation. He looked like he was going to nail me down as the reincarnation of the Ice Emperor, no matter what I said. I thought so from the beginning. Now, you are no longer the Ice Emperor you used to be. The Ice and Snowdragon that keeps talking. Even if you really weren't an ice maker in your previous life, I judged your vessel according to my will and accepted you as the owner, so I hope you don't worry about it in vain. Is that so? He was even prepared to cancel the contract with Ice and Snowdragon Hild, but Bing and Snowdragon didn't seem to have any intention of doing so in the first place. How come I'm running out of pulse? I thought about what more to say, then just shook my head. If this happened, I would just have to deal with the Ice and Snowdragon as Isaac? I'm fine. What? My name is Isaac. Thank you for signing a contract with me. I am... If you're grateful. I don't care if you can caress my body as much as you want someday. Ice and Snowdragon is also a beast, so it seems that he missed his master's touch. When the time comes when I can properly summon the Ice and Snowdragon, I'll have to stroke her until she gets tired of it. After paying tuition and quitting a part-time job as a driver, he set up a systematic spending plan and focused on training. In the gym, I took off my jacket and ironed with the Knights students who had been left over during vacation. When he went to the training ground, he trained his magic against all kinds of elemental equipment, or competed with demonic illusions to improve his fighting ability. When I returned to the dormitory exhausted after a day of training, I washed up and sat down at my desk and opened a book. After studying for a while, I fell asleep as I digested my daily routine. Time passed without a hitch. The students gradually began to return to the academy, and 4 days before the end of summer vacation, a notice was posted on the Orphan Hall bulletin board. School of Magic first year, second semester dormitory assignment, Isaac Briggs Hall. The place where I will be staying has been upgraded to the Briggs Hall, which is a dormitory for the lower middle class among the 4 dormitories of the Marchant Academy. First semester grades were reflected. It's finally escaping the cramped Doris Hall. Yachts. He swung his clenched fist violently, immersed in joy. Some students walking down the hallway looked at me, but I didn't care and left the orphan hall with light steps. I got to the Doris building and packed my things. The Doris Hall, which was reminiscent of a 3-pyong studio in Sillim-dong, is a bit spacious with all my belongings removed. I can't see it. It's also narrow. Anyway, it was empty. From the day I was possessed by Magic Knight of Marchant until now, the space that was in charge of main among my food, clothing, and shelter. Feeling the subtle drumstick, I said goodbye to Doris. Stay well. We headed to the lower middle class dormitory, Briggs Hall. The size of the building was so high and wide that it could not even be compared to the Doris Pavilion. I checked the notice posted on the bulletin board in the Briggs building and went to my room. The size of the room was about 20 square. There was a balcony, and there was a refrigerator operated by the Ice Attribute Order Book. Joe Allah was good. Memories of Doris House were immediately forgotten. Eden, put it over there. Ku Wong. Sampa. After piling up my belongings in the room, I started to organize them one by one with Eden. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. Bah. I can't help it. You, Ice and Snow Dragon. Hild floated in the air in the form of a small light blue sphere. The reason he doesn't have a body is purely because of my weakness. What did I apologize for? After unpacking and tidying up the room, I wiped the sweat beads from my forehead. Eden didn't even sweat and followed my movements next to me. I don't know why, but it's cute. The green Garosugil is refreshing, but the sticky air on a summer day only makes you feel repulsed. However, by the time the first performance evaluation of the second semester begins, it will be around the end of summer and the beginning of autumn. Finally, the summer vacation was over and the students returned home, and the busy streets of the academy began to come alive. The spotless clear sky was scattering a pure blue light. The opening ceremony of the Faculty of Magic was held at the Academy Square. Currently, the number of first-year students in the Faculty of Magic is 290 students. Unlike last semester, 10 students dropped out. It was a fact that could be known from the notice of dormitory assignment. They're probably failing students. Oh, I don't know if there are dropouts. Considering last semester, it was not unusual for students to drop out one after another for their own safety. After a while, the opening ceremony is over. Everyone, go to the temporary class. Professor Fernando Frost, a silver-haired adult man I haven't seen in a long time, gave instructions to the students. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now that the second semester has begun, we will conduct a new evaluation of horsepower measurement and class assignment. I'm going to start measuring the amount of horsepower right away today. I moved to the temporary second class of Orphan Hall. Students were seated in the terraced classroom. The only acquaintances were Amy Holloway and Ciel Carnedas. I greeted Amy by waving her hand, and Ciel and I met their eyes for a moment. Ciel was still hugging the pillow I gave her during the end of semester evaluation. He seemed to like it quite a bit. Ciel Carnedas. Psychology. I feel favored and wary of you. What are those incompatible emotions? Is it because of the memory of the end of semester evaluation? First of all, I thought it would be better to refrain from approaching Ciel, because when I see him, I can only remember the time I rolled around. I roughly went to the middle seat and sat down. Then Professor Fernando Frost entered the classroom. As an aside, Ian must have met Professor Philip Meltron in the temporary 4th class. Professor Fernando stopped in front of the podium and rhymed with "as everyone expected," like last semester. I will measure your magical power. The usage is the same as last semester, and 3 days later, there will be a class placement evaluation. Please show the results of your last semester and summer vacation clearly at this opportunity. As always, Professor Fernando speaks plainly. The students each had a sad expression on their face. Let's go to the training ground. All the first-year students of the Faculty of Magic moved to the training ground just as they did when measuring the amount of magical power in the first semester. To the first-year students standing in an orderly manner, the assistants began handing out a magic power meter that looked like a gripper. Professor Fernando's assistant, Marco, handed me a magic meter with a corpse-like expression on his face. How can I not sleep even during summer vacation? I am deeply saddened by it. Then, in each class, 5 people will come out in order, starting with the lowest number. With Professor Fernando's instructions, the measurement of the amount of horsepower began. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, the ones that stand out are the same as last semester. This time, I couldn't control this body's river. Day, Hun, and Mana. Tristan Humphrey, LV, 80, race, human, attribute, wind, risk, X, psychology. I want to show you my strength. Tristan Humphrey, B class in magical power. Matteo Giordana, LV, 83, race, human, attribute, rock, risk, X, psychology. I feel that I have become a little stronger. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Matteo Giordana, magic power B class. Kaya Astrian, Elva, 99, race, human, attributes, wind, ice, plants, risk, X, psychology. I am delighted with the results of the summer vacation intensive training. Kaya Astriana, magic power A class. CL Carnatus, LV, 95, race, human, attributes, fire, water, risk, X, psychology. I want to take a nap. CL Carnatus, magic power B plus class. Ian Fairy Tale, Elva, 64, race, human, attributes, light, fire, risk, X, psychology. I feel a little stronger and I am proud. Ian Fairy Tale, magic power C class. Lut Eltania, Elva, 151, race, human, attributes, water, lightning, risk, X, psychology. I want to be with you all day. When Luce's magic power measurement results came out, Professor Fernando looked puzzled. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, because Luce had already gone to a far-off point in the first year. Luce Eltania, you cannot measure the amount of horsepower. It is considered to be at least S class. A more rigorous measurement is required. The students were astonished at Professor Fernando's word. However, Luce had a dull expression as if he was not interested. It was strange that he was only thinking about me while listening to such words. Unable to measure the amount of horsepower means that it is S class or higher. Luce, who surprised the students by coming out with an A+ level of magical power only last semester. The fact that he jumped to S class or higher in just one semester was surprising to students who were not familiar with the circumstances. When measuring the amount of horsepower, the grades are subdivided from S grade or higher. S class, S class, S plus class, SS class, in this order, up to SS plus level. It means that Luce has reached the point of being judged by that grade. For reference, Dorothy Hartnova will be SS class, Alice Carroll will be SS plus class, and Lord of Lightning Zal Dragoniac will be SS plus class. All the detailed grades are graded as S grades in the status window, and when you reach level 200, you are entitled to break through the stats up to the EX level, which is the maximum level. That's the reason I got level 200 and EX level in Fictional Hell and got the 9-star passive skill Ice. Next, to let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My turn has come. After lining up with the other students, he held out the magic meter forward. Soon after, Professor Fernando exclaimed, "Start. Situation. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Name, Isaac. 68. Gender, male. Grade, 1. Title, first year adapting to undergraduate life. Horsepower, 250. Magical recovery speed, C+. Thanks to physical training efficiency, I was able to do more intense training than usual during the summer vacation. Thanks to the increased physical strength, thanks to this, the speed of level increase has increased, and my level has reached 68. I felt it was easier to control my magic than in the first semester. There were traces of mana oozing out, but this was good enough. With a beep, the magic power measurement was finished. Professor Fernando brought the students' magic meters, including mine, as telekinetic powers, and started reading them one by one. Number 26, C class. Number 27, class C. 28, C class. 29, C class. 30 times, C plus level. Professor Fernando was restless when he called my number 30. It was a surprise in its own right. It was natural. There's no way I can't do it without remembering the E-class magical power. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My horsepower was set at C+ level. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Memories of the last semester run through my mind. Within the faculty, I was known for the bad, a D-class commoner with an E-class magical power, the lowest of the lowest, both magically and personally. The students of the Marchand Academy, who crushed it, treated me harshly and denigrated it, consuming it like beef bone broth. Hey, in E-class, is it possible to become a C+ level in just one semester? Something is wrong. Or the meter is broken. Ian is special. So even so, Isaac is just an ordinary kid. Don't you remember using 5-star magic in the first semester? You must have worked like crazy. I look a little different. Anyway, is it Isaac? It was a D-class with an E-class horsepower? That is why who was inferior to anyone else and had an E level of magical power, achieved rapid growth. The way the students looked at me was changing quite a bit. Please. The next Grand Duchess of the North, A.K.L. White Clark. To her younger sister, Caridna White Clark. 1. Watch Isaac from afar. You don't have to rush to watch. However, if any unusual items are found, report them individually. 2. You should never write Cite Fairy Tale against Isaac if you don't want to be blind. 3. Don't say anything about Isaac, because we're not the kind of person we can touch, tremble. A.K.L.'s earnest voice, which had been giving a warning to her, was still ingrained in Caridna's mind, like a wedge. Just thinking about that time still gives me a chilling feeling all over my body. What the hell? That man. Temporary third-class classroom. A girl with short pink hair. Caridna White Clark. She sat down, her chin crossed, and her fingers quietly tapping the desk, contemplating in front of the podium. The professor was conducting an orientation on the curriculum for the second semester. Caridna couldn't really concentrate on the content. Isaac, who was the weakest in the first year of the Faculty of Magic, was the weakest in the E-class. White Dragon, a symbol of the Duke White Clark family and a mythical beast. The scene where the two of them signed a contract was firmly stuck in their minds and never left. Where should I start to be surprised? The fact that the White Dragon in mythology was still alive. That Isaac signed a master-slave contract with the White Dragon? Either way, isn't that an overly pretentious story? Of course, that doesn't mean he's still the weakest. Entering the second semester, Isaac achieved rapid growth with a C+ level of magical power. Even so, it is the same fact that he is still much weaker than himself. It was confusing. Isaac, what the hell is that man? As I continued to think like that, the memory of A.K.L.'s shed tears of blood was vividly recalled. It still gives me goosebumps. If A.K.L. had not taken much Cite Fairy Tale, Caridna herself would have been blind. A.K.L. paid the price for stealing the monster Isaac. Fortunately, A.K.L. was always wearing a high level of basic protection magic, otherwise she would have been blind. It was as if she had owed A.K.L. a debt that would be difficult to repay over the course of her life. Caridna had no idea how much of a dreadful secret she was trying to uncover. However, one thing was clear. Little kid, it's like a monster that lives under the surface of the water and in the deep sea. That it is an object of fear. There are some truths in this world that you would rather not know. And I didn't even know what Isaac's secret was. Caridna was about to witness it, but she was in a dizzying situation that almost made her blind. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwimto.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now Isaac was feeling terrifying. Congratulations. The second element attribute slot has been open. Your second elemental attribute is rock. Wow. While going from level 63 to 68, I invested in magic training efficiency whenever I got stats. Thanks to this, a total of 81 stats have been distributed so far for magic training efficiency. The grade was A+ grade. I met Kaya Estrine. She blushed when she saw me and tried to avoid it. When I read the psychology, I could see that it was because I was embarrassed because of the kiss on the cheek on the day of the vacation. Forcibly approached Kaya and gave him a light greeting. She didn't show any intention of continuing the conversation with me. Just saying, forget my mistakes on vacation? With that desperate look, I had no choice but to say that I knew. And then, Kaya, who hurriedly ran away. It seemed that the distance with her would not be narrowed for a while. A class placement evaluation was recently conducted. As demons did not appear in the first year, second semester placement evaluation. I just had to do my best. As a result, I was assigned to Class C. It can be said that it has reached the upper level of the C class. It was hard to believe any student. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Most of the students stayed in the same class as last semester. The same goes for students who were in Class D. They frowned every time they met me in the hallway. Reading the psychology, I was able to find out that I felt inferior. Kaya. Duh. Look at the difference in temperature from last semester. When students looked with contempt and contempt, he was the weakest person in charge of he, and I'm still better than him. Truly, it could not have been the development of a long family. With this, The Magic Night of Marchand Act 4, Chapter 1, Semester 2 begins part pass without a hitch. Dinner. After all the lessons for the day, we headed to the corner of the Butterfly Garden. It was the place where I spent most of my first semester. So if there is something new, I want to review it there. Unlike the first semester, where only one elemental attribute was explored from the second semester. the second elemental attribute training must also be performed, because the curriculum is structured that way. For me, it was important to receive systematic magic education for effective growth. So the more I followed the curriculum, the better I was, and I succeeded in opening the second elemental mana circuit through this bachelor's curriculum. At that time, the system window popped up saying that the second element attribute slot was open. Rock creation rock attribute. Balon. As mana flowed into his right hand, small pieces of rock formed and floated around as if he was in a state of weightlessness. I was a rock-type person. I hoped it would be a gas or liquid attribute like fire, water, lightning, and wind. But even the second attribute has turned into a solid form like ice. There were disappointments in terms of efficiency and maneuverability. Still, the advantages are not clear. But there are 3 advantages that come to mind right away. The first advantage is compatibility. The biggest weakness of the ice attribute, such as fire magic, can be countered by rock magic. Of course, water would have been better. The second advantage is kanji. If you fold your arms and drop rocks and put into your mouth a nice line such as "the sky moves all things," the tickles will overflow. The third advantage is the workhorse. I summoned Eden, light brown elemental mana clustered in the air, and it took the form of Eden, a small golem. Eden landed lightly on the ground. Ku. Agu. Familiar. Eden is a rock attribute. In other words, it was also possible to provide my rock mana to Eden. As I drained the rock mana, Eden was startled and began to shake. Eden, is my mana delicious? Yeah. Eden affirmed with a hurrah posture. Cute guy. I smiled and patted Eden's head. Providing a large amount of magical power promotes the growth of the workhorse. The workhorse will be able to follow the master's level. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwemtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Next time Destroyer is activated, if you summon Eden and pour out rock mana, he will receive a temporary buff and give him a sudden power-up. After that, if the condition calms down, you will have a body that grows at a tremendous rate. The next demon I will deal with is the Free Elfert, the elephant demon from the Magic Knight of March in Act 4, Chapter 3, Underground Giant Part. To reach him, you have to clear a fairly difficult mission in the Act 4, Chapter 2, Food Chain Part. Naturally, the level of difficulty that does not disappoint is expected. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. More than that, there was one thing I was worried about. Is Kaya the problem? The hidden boss of Act 4, Chapter 3, Underground Giant, Kaya of Evil. This one is for that little chicken owl. Are Kaya Astrani is right? Kaya becomes a demon. Even so, it was only temporary. But the fight with her who became a demon is inevitable. In the community, it was called Hukwa Kaya, or Hipkaya for short. I remember that there were a lot of posts sending padlib to parents who didn't even exist, such as, "Have you lost your mother in Hukaya difficulty?" The pattern was so anomalous that it was difficult to support it. Currently, Kaya is stronger than the original scenario and has expanded her tactics. Aside from receiving cooperative experience in the Tantek Underground Cave, it was decisive that I gave Armana's wand as a gift. That gift was a gift from God who saved me in the first semester, but in the second semester, it will become a chain boomerang and fly to my neck. In other words, Hokaya's pattern would be completely different from what I knew. It was like an unknown area I was not aware of. I would win anyway. Bye. However, it was clear why I gave Kaya the Armana wand without much concern. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat, no matter how much the Black Kaya pattern changes. It is a self-evident fact that I am stronger in the Destroyer state. First of all, I in the Destroyer state is much higher than Hokaya from the level. For reference, the lower the level, the less damage it takes, but I don't have to worry about that. Besides, I have a Frost Scythe and an Ice and Snow Dragon. It was an unwinnable fight. While I was thinking about it, Huajang. Suddenly, a secret voice rang in my ears. Startled, he covered his ears and pulled himself to the side. Wow, I thought my ears were melting. I quickly turned my head to the back of the sound. A girl with pale purple hair wearing a witch hat came into view. Nyahaha. The president is cute. It was Dorothy's witty smile. Ah, senior, you are here. Dorothy's whispers and breaths touched my ears, leaving a long-lasting impression. I couldn't keep my hands off the ears that had been a victim of Dorothy's prank for a while. Did you realize the second attribute? Yes, it was a rock. The fortress president has gained some muscle and has become more masculine. Rocks suit me. What logic? Dorothy tilted her head while making a characteristic nahi-ha laughter. Have you been here for a long time? I used to go to the training ground every day for the fortress. I just wanted to organize my thoughts here. You must have known the new elemental properties, like how to train them in the future. I just woke up, so I'm not good at using stone magic. Right? Yes. It's still only basic magic. I plan to learn basic magic sooner or later. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My magic training efficiency and learning efficiency are markedly different from last semester. You can learn it easily. Will my sister help me? Dorothy smiles slyly. Are you senior? What? Just answer me. Help me. Don't you? I would appreciate it if it helped. Then give me your hand. Both hands. As Dorothy said, I stretched out my arms. Then Dorothy put her wrists on top of mine. and gently grabbed my wrists because their hands and wrists were perfectly close to each other. The soft texture of the skin was clearly felt. It was embarrassing. Take my wrist. What is this? This one is for that little chicken owl. Once I was told to catch it. I caught it. Dorothy's wrists were slender when Dorothy, who was like a daughter, is once again realizing that she is a woman. Light brown stone mana began to flow from the part where they held each other's wrists. Starting from the wrist, it felt as if the rock mana circuits that had been wrapped around every corner of the body were gradually reviving. It was the same feeling I felt whenever I increased my ice magic proficiency. I looked at Dorothy with curiosity. She tilted her head to the side and gave me a bright smile. Beneath the witch's hat, her golden earrings boasted a smooth luster in the glow of the sunset. His eyes seemed to contain the universe as usual, to let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huihui. My eyes were crazy. Am I also a rock type person? More precisely, wind and rocks? That's why my Rock Monaro president is making it easy to learn rock magic. Is this possible because I am senior? The best? Really great. Nihi! A smile flowed out. I didn't know I would get this much help. It was a great pleasure to meet Dorothy today. According to this feeling, it seemed that I would be able to master various rock magic much faster than I expected. At some point, Dorothy's rock mana stops flowing. By the way, it only works when the mana circuit is just opened. There is nothing I can do about it anymore. Even this is just sweet. I thanked Dorothy over and over again. Each time, she put her hand on her waist and said, "Come," or "Uh-huh." He reacted triumphantly, spitting out such a chorus situation. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Name: Isaac, LV, 68. Gender: male. Grade: 1. Title: first year adapting to undergraduate life. Horsepower: 5200 to 5200. Magical recovery speed C+. Stamina B. Strength B. Intellect C+. Spirit A+. Potential details: combat ability. Elemental Class 1, Ice. Elemental Fire, B. Elemental Efficiency, B. Elemental Synergy, B. Elemental Series 2, Rock. Elemental Fire, C. Elemental Efficiency, C. Elemental Synergy, D+. Owned skills. Skills possessed, details. Skill tree, details. Unique attribute: Destroyer. The warmth of a summer day is slowly fading away. It seemed to be about to approach early autumn. The speed at which the elemental firepower and elemental efficiency of the rock attribute increased was beyond imagination. Magic training efficiency was A+, and it was the result of Dorothy's help. How long has it been since you realized it? You're already sea level. My heart is enlarged. Elemental Synergy is useless for the stone attribute, so it raises its stats or increases mana. He also learned new magic. First of all, the 4-star ice attribute magic, Ice Spear. Very useful magic. Ice Spear boasts a mana density that cannot even be compared to the spear model sculptures made with ice generation. It is mainly used as a method of throwing at enemies. According to my perception, the magic circle will shoot it for you. Among my ice magic, attack magic is, there was only Frost Flame with a wide attack range but low attack power, and Freeze Explosion, which was too much for normal use, so even if the attack range was narrow. He had learned the Ice Spear, which was excellent in attack by 1 point. He also learned the 3-star stone attribute magic, Dialysis. It is a magic that throws rocks. And of course, it has a higher mana density than rock generation. For reference, the higher the mana density, the higher the magic power and weight. In the case of solid magic, the hardness becomes even harder. Isaac, nothing is wrong. Pass. Currently I was on my way to the test site. Cabin interior. The proctor checked my body to make sure there were no unusual items in it, like a scan with checkpoint magic. I passed right away because I didn't bring anything. In this test, there was nothing I could bring with me except for magic weapons and things that I had to bring with me due to circumstances. The Sword of Disaster is not a magic weapon, but a magic tool, so I left it in the dormitory. For reference. Let's differentiate between the two. Magic weapons and magic tools. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huihui. Magical weapons are wizard's weapons that increase the power of magic instead of complicating the operation of magic. It's like Kaya Astrang's wand, Rosetta's Lionheart's wooden bat, or Lokta. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huihui. Magical tools simply refer to tools that involve magic. It's like an order book. Since the Sword of Disaster was only used to store and use magic, it was treated like a spell book. After checking his belongings, he left the cabin. There was the sound of seagulls chirping and chirping. This was on a ship owned by the Academy. Blue sky. The sea breeze brushed my skin and the moist air moistened my lung. The expansive ocean stretched out around it. When I turned my head back, I could feel the fluttering vibrations of the Academy dock that I still could see. Looking straight ahead, an island firmly established in the middle of the sea caught my eye. The name is Elt Island. This was the test site and the main stage of Magic Night of Marchin. Act 4, Chapter 2, Food Chain in Act 4. Chapter 3, Giant in the Ground. Several ships were moving towards Elt Island, carrying the first-year students of the Faculty of Magic. They would drop off students at various marinas on Elt Island, respectively. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Many students roamed the deck and chatted. They probably have no idea what kind of test they will take in the future. This exam will be quite difficult. I put my arms on the railing of the ship and looked out to sea. Clouds were disappearing over the distant horizon. Oh, I'm nervous? Bah. I felt a dizzying tension, as if I was walking a tightrope. I've come up with a plan, but I'm still worried, because there will be a lot of unpredictable variables in this test as well. As I was thinking about it, I suddenly felt someone's gaze. I turned my head towards it. Oh, this one is for that lil chicken owl on the other side of the boat. The eyes of a cute girl with light green hair, standing holding the railing, made eye contact. Her wavy hair was dancing in the sea breeze. It was Kaya Astrine. Kaya blushed like a blush and bowed her head. Kaya Astrine. Psychology. I am thrilled at the thought of making eye contact with you. My shy face. A faint smile crossed Kaya's lips. It was like a scene from a teenage movie. As always, he was a very sweet boy. I already knew that Kaya had a crush on me, but unfortunately, dating was a luxury for me until I defeated the evil spirit. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now I will fight Kaya. And, of course, he'll save that child as if he's looking for it. This was not the time to have weak thoughts. Motivated. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how difficult the difficulty level of this Act 4 scenario is, it will surely go beyond that. As it has ever been, educational opportunities must be guaranteed. Even if demons appeared several times this year, the Marchin Academy could not give up education. It was in line with the ideology to teach students with greater safety. Even the Imperial Knights intervened to ensure the education of the Marchin Academy. The Academy has also increased the budget for hiring wizards and knights, which it is said to be. It came from a strong will to teach the students somehow. Asmodeans are considered to be natural disasters because it lacks intelligence, is far from collective action, can't predict behavioral patterns, and can't even guess where it comes from and where it comes from. However, there must have been a special reason that such a creature appeared several times only at the Marchin Academy this year. The royal family decided so. As such, some members of the 4th Division of the Imperial Knights and the Fenrir Knights were dispatched to investigate the frequent occurrence of demons. I wouldn't have been able to get any income. They wouldn't have been able to find out who the insider was, where the demons came from, and what the black monster was. Of course, Alice was thoroughly prepared so that the tale would not be caught. Asmodeans are microbes under the ground and then take shape with the magic of evil spirits that have managed to crawl out of the abyss. This is because there is no ice attribute character with the magical power of a black monster in the academy. In case you have any questions, you can refer to owumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how, it was said that the princess was planning to enter the Marchin Academy next year, so the knights had no choice but to raise their search. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Marchin Academy is one of the most prestigious academies that cannot be replaced by any academy on the continent. It's the best elite academy. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, this is just an excuse. There was another real reason. The reason will be revealed gradually when I am in my 2nd year. In the first place, if you send all the knights with excellent skills, you will have the confidence to solve any demons that appear. From this year on, until the princess graduated, it became clear that the Marchin Academy would become the dispatching place for the Knights Templar. The powerful members of the Imperial Knights Templar contributed to the security of the Marchin Academy. Anyway, for those reasons, some members of the Imperial Knights Templar will participate as test supervisors from the 2nd semester. Seeing it with my own eyes, exclamations flowed out of me. From now on, I will explain the rules of hunting evaluation. Elt Island is a forest with a feeling of the Amazon jungle. However, the color itself is rather colorful. This is because plants covered with various elemental mana are prevalent. This one is for that little chicken owl, one of the marinas on Elt Island. The academy ships set up their ships at different marinas. The students were disembarked. The students stood in an orderly manner at the pier, looking at the professor in charge, and I was also inside. Professor Fernando began to explain the rules of this exam. Behind them were the proctors. I felt great power. The exam runs until tonight. In the meantime, you will be staying on this island. Your purpose is simple. Accumulate as many points as possible until the test is over or you fail. Those points will become your grades in gel. So, how do you accumulate points? Points can be accumulated by successfully hunting. Here, on Elt Island. The monster illusions we have set up and the workhorses we have summoned are all over the place. Each time you catch them, points are given differentially according to each rank. The more you go into the center of Elt Island, the more powerful your enemies will be. That way you can earn a lot of points as a result of inspecting Elt Island. There were no real monsters, so rest assured. Those words must also include the meaning of there were no demons. For reference, there is a clear difference between the concepts of demons and monsters in this worldview. The word mamo in Magical Beast has a strong magical meaning. It means magical beast. This one is for that little chicken owl. On the other hand, monsters are just evil creatures with no room for compromise. Demons are classified as a higher species because their presence is too distinct if you are struck by a demonic illusion. The bracelets on your wrists will ring and the test is over. The test supervisor will come to you, so you just have to stay still. The wrists of the students, including me, had a bracelet that could not be removed. It was a bracelet that could track the location of the students, just like the end of term assessment. Points can be used to purchase goods at unmanned shops scattered across Elt Island. However, that point is directly related to grades, so if you want to get good grades, you should save it as much as possible. In other words, in this test, your fighting ability, survivability, wisdom, and knowledge are evaluated. Professor, what if students fight each other, whether it's to steal someone else's belongings? So are you out? A boy who looked like a schoolboy raised his arms and asked. Professor Fernando looked at the boy and answered, "No problem." The students looked surprised. Tell me again. The hunting assessment is a test to evaluate your fighting ability, survival ability, wisdom, and knowledge, assessing the vessel with the enemy. Carefully looking for opportunities or running away efficiently are also important evaluation factors. You can each be a predator or a prey to each other. If you are afraid of having your belongings taken away, counterattack or run away. Fernando spoke in his usual cynical tone. If you want to give up midway, or if something unusual happens that is not related to the exam, be sure to report it to us with a bracelet. I will take appropriate action. The current time is 10 a.m. The end of the exam is midnight tonight. The time will be marked on the bracelet. Until then, know how to survive. More than, please enter in numerical order. As in the first semester class placement evaluation, in a fixed number order, the students began entering the forest of Elt Island at regular intervals. I also went into the forest. A jungle of various colors came into my view. Trees full of frost, flowers with electricity, trees with hardwoods that are too large for their bodies, etc. Carefully, but with quick steps, I moved inside. A blue light flashing on the bracelet was a sign of the start of the test. I hid behind the huge hardwood tree that was sitting down and paid attention to the bracelet. Then, 1 or 2 red lights began to appear on the bracelet. They all disappeared and were quietly replaced by a single blue light. It was the beginning of the test. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My purpose in this exam is twofold. First, reach the volcano in the center of Elt Island. Second, meet Ian Fairytale. By the way, Ian must have come to the dock opposite me before coming to Elt Island. I found out by paying attention to where each ship was headed. Ian meets Kaya right after the start of the exam and forms a team. And it was the story of Magic Knight of Marchen, Act 4. Chapter 2, Food Chain, that they moved to the center to earn points. The problem was that I couldn't clearly figure out where Ian and Kaya were. I have a clairvoyant to do. Seba. I closed my left eye and activated Clear Vision, clearance neutral attribute. 7. The right eye is colored silver. My vision began to change at a dramatic rate. At once, he took a look at the other side of Elt Island and scanned it. Ian appeared, as expected. He was in the middle of meeting Kaya and talking with Kaya from the very beginning. The two nodded and started moving towards the center together. Closer has been released. He opened his left eye again and regained his original field of view. If you continue to infer Ian's path as he advances towards the volcano towering in the center, they would be able to check their trends by frequently activating Clearly Eye. Anyway, they're going all the way to the center. Ian and Kaya will head towards the center of Elt Island without hesitation. There will be several stops in the middle for hunting and nutrient intake, but it will be reached in at least 8 hours. The demonic tribe, Sangsung Elfert from Act 4. Chapter 3, Underground Giant, part will appear in the center of Elt Island, swallowing Kaya. Kaya will enter the body of the so-called underground giant, and Ian goes into the body of a giant to save Kaya. Ian will not be able to survive unconditionally. The body of the underground giant is full of demons like cockroaches. Control Eunuch Ian could not have survived. Therefore, it is best to find Ian right before he enters the giant's body. As a digression, I also thought about leaving an anonymous letter to the academics in advance, saying, a demon appears in the center of Elt Island. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course I quit, because there are too many variables. First of all, it was questionable whether the academics would believe it. And even if it did, it was a problem. There was a great fear that the test would be suspended and the Elt Island would be blocked. If that happens, no one will be able to stop the impermanent Elfert. I wasn't sure if it would go my way. Above all, I hoped that there would be no victims. Not only did it interfere with the scenario, but it was a problem that could lead to a bad ending. In addition, I thought carefully about how to keep Kaya from falling into danger as much as possible. That's too much. In the Magic Knight of Marchen Act 4, Chapter 2, Food Chain part. The bad ending was confirmed if it did not reach the center in time. Giants covet plant properties. So, as soon as he wakes up, he will aim for Kaya, who is responding to plant mana. When Kaya gets to the heart of the giant's head, all he needs to do is open his mouth to swallow, which will satisfy the giant. But if Kaya doesn't reach the core until the giant wakes up, flames and blood magic spring up all over Elt Island, causing many victims. Swarm death. Still, he couldn't choose the risky option that would somehow get Kaya out of the exam. The giant's outer skin reaches 190 generations in terms of level, just like the Nyungong's barrier in the Thunder Creed. They are demons that were created only to go inside and kill them. How much less? The giant's mouth is the only way into the body in terms of structure. Without Kaya, the giant would never open his mouth, even if it ends up sacrificing Kaya as a result. It was the safest way for her to be swallowed by a giant, both for herself and to prevent a bad ending. Let's do it. I choked my emotions with a deep breath. Now is the start. First, on the way to the center, catch a monster illusion and earn points. Then find an unmanned shop. Elt Island is very wide. Many unmanned shops were also installed accordingly. It's quiet. This one is for that little chicken owl. Only the chirping of grasshoppers and the chirping of birds could be heard. It was a contrast to the first semester class placement evaluation. It seemed like it was an outside spot with few prey yet. Hild. I summoned Ice and Snow Dragon Hild. It came out in the form of a tiny spherical light. Ice and Snow Dragon, healed. Lovi. 1. Race. Beast. Attribute. Ice. Risk. X. Psychology. I am enjoying the new environment. Ma. Is this the test site? Ma. As the Ice and Snow Dragon's classical voice resonated in my head, I nodded. Check if there are any monsters, demons, or people around. I do. Bam. Closer consumes a burdensome level of magic power, so it was more efficient to proceed while applying Ice and Snow Dragon. Ice and Snow Dragon crossed the air and began to look around. He was in the shape of a very small lump of light, so if he was careful, no one would notice. I don't feel any signs. What? I got out of the giant hardwood tree and began to move cautiously. The Ice and Snow Dragon went ahead in the direction of the center, looked at the presence of monsters, magical beasts, and human, and reported it in my head from time to time. I just had to go that safe route. As the distance increases, the voice becomes less audible, so it was necessary to maintain a certain level of distance from the Ice and Snow Dragon. Found. Monster. I have this feeling a bit strange. Totem. Interlude. Ba. Crying. Bang. Stone Rock attribute. 3. Coup. When I discovered the illusion of a monster that looked like an anteater, I threw rocks away with rock magic to destroy them. The illusion of monsters disappeared like smoke, scattering in the wind. It was a fantasy created using magic tools. Well, what do monsters these days become smoke when they die? Bing and Snow Ryong were startled, so he spoke in a grandmother-like tone. In the meantime, her voice was so beautiful that I felt a subtle sense of alienation. It's a monster fantasy. Yes, they made fake shapes of demons. Well, is there such a thing? Unbeknownst to you, the times have progressed a lot. Well, of course. But Ice and Snow Dragon seemed to sense the weight of the passing years. The fantasy of the monster that I killed became monograins and flowed into my bracelet. At the same time, points were engraved. 20 points. It seems that the monster illusions I just killed were 10 points each. It's also a mob. I took a step back. Elt Island Highlands. After summoning the Thunder Creed in an appropriate size, Luce flew up on its back and quickly reached the top of the cliff. Luce examining the entire view of Elt Island, a dark brown volcano was located in the center of the colorful forest. My master. Another Isaac search? Trying to get the rays out of your eyes. Glow beep. Tight. Luce slapped Bellow, a small killer whale, who was talking like a child next to her with her fist. Bellow. Shock. Against violence. Against violence? Beans. Noisy. You're a friend, so you shouldn't have to find it. Luce searched for traces of Isaac through the crevices of the leaves. Even the smallest clue was good. I have to protect Isaac. He had excellent eyesight and a keen eye, so if it had anything to do with Isaac, he would unconditionally figure it out. However, it was very difficult to find Isaac because the trees were densely packed. Isaac, where are you? I wanted to find Isaac quickly. This is a remote Elt Island. It's okay to stay together all day until the exam is over without noticing other students. Ah, how happy. A salivation welled up in Luce's mouth. Elt Island is full of mushrooms that cause abnormalities. A poi mushroom that feels threatened when someone approaches and emits toxic spores. A kuku mushroom that forces you to sleep. Soli mushrooms that emit spores that heal any spores they've been hit by a strong blow. Jerome mushroom, which temporarily disrupts the mana circuit, making it impossible to use magic. For reference, Jerome mushrooms don't work for strong kids like Luce. I'm still at the level to eat. Anyway, I had to watch out for all kinds of mushrooms. This was because if they fell into an abnormal state, it would cause a great difficulty in moving to the center of Elt Island. Ian, please be safe. Spores are caught in the middle of being vigilant, so Ian was worried. In any case, Kayat, who studied ecology hard, will cover it. I took hold of the weak monster illusions and headed towards the center. Then, an unmanned shop caught my eye. No one is around? The report of the Ice and Snow Dragon. Without hesitation, I headed to the unmanned shop. The unmanned shop was in the form of a cylindrical vending machine. Various products were displayed through the window. This one is for that little chicken owl. 1-star order form for each attribute. Drinking water. Odor remover. Useful ropes. Nets. Camouflage that mimics the surrounding environment. A baby hippo doll. A toilet tent expensive, etc. George 120 points of deodorant. Man. The current accumulated points are 120. I spent 120 points on the bracelet at the unmanned shop. The mana grains in my bracelet flowed into the unmanned shop, and then the payment was made. And when I pressed the button on the deodorant side, the product popped out. The odor eliminator was similar to a nebulizer. After spraying it on my body several times, I put it in the magic pouch distributed by the bachelors. As a result, demonic fantasies and ministries will not be able to discern my scent. Hide. Bah. At that moment, Hild's voice rang out. Reflexively, he quickly hid in the tree next to him. The beast is flying in the sky. I glanced at the scenery of the sky through the crevices of the trees. A few flying beasts. I couldn't tell if it was the workhorse of the test proctors or if it was intentionally uploaded by students I did not know. Well, it wouldn't be any good if it stood out. I carefully moved my feet. Ice Spear Ice Attribute. Vor 4. Push. Kaing. Hayrang. A monster fantasy that heard the sound of my footsteps and ran away. When that black wolf put his nose to the ground and tried to track me down, he blew a spear made of ice and killed him lightly. It's still going smoothly. Herring was able to defeat him lightly, but the fangs of the hippopotamus were going to get stronger. It would be better to avoid fighting as much as possible. Since I have Ice and Snow Dragon Hild for the boundary of the keys, going to the center of Elt Island without battle was not an unrealistic story. There is a suspicious movement from above. Ice and Snow Dragon's report broke my mind. I called the guy. What is suspicious? It seems that the beast owl was spying on you secretly. I had an unnatural feeling before, but now I have confidence. I had an ominous feeling. If they had tried to hunt me, they would have attacked me sooner. In other words, were you spying on me? Master. Hide. Suddenly, Ice and Snow Dragon, Hild spoke to me in a serious tone. Humans are coming around you. It seems to be under siege. What? A rustling sound was heard. Several students were approaching me. They were Class C and D who came in the same boat as me. The number is 6. Soon after, a magic circle was engraved around me. Rock Wall Rock Attribute. 4. Ice Wall Ice Attribute. 4. Duk 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 Duk. A solid wall rose around me, blocking my way. It was the magic of the students approaching me. What? I'm confused. There was no time to judge what was going on. I put my fingers together and collected mana to break through the layered barrier. The magic of Freeze Explosion was engraved in the air. First of all, it seems that these guys are my enemies. At that time, chorus. Whew. Hearing the chirping of birds from above, he raised his head. I saw an owl wrapped in wind mana around its body, dropping 2 mushrooms toward me. Windsword Wind Attribute. 3. A weak wind blade flew from the owl and cut the mushrooms that had fallen. Then, green spores come out like smoke. Glittering dust poured down on me. Hey, shit. A mushroom that temporarily disables magic by disrupting the mana circuit. It was the spore of the Jerome mushroom. The flow of magic was entangled. I couldn't control my magic. Immediately, the magic of Freeze Explosion was released. The ice mana that had been condensed was also scattered in the air. Soon, one rock wall imprisoning me from all directions turned into light brown powder and disappeared. Fireball Fire Attribute. 3. Whoops. At the same time, a sphere of flames flew towards me. There was nowhere to escape, so I tried to deploy Ice Wall in a hurry, but the magic didn't come out as expected. There was no other option. I flew towards the rock wall towering next to me, slid onto it, and covered my face with my arm. Woo woo woo! Fireball hit the ice wall behind me and spread the flames. The ice wall is melting. I could feel the heat in front of my nose for a while, but that was all. It wasn't a powerful fireball. Whoops, it was cold. I quickly adjusted my posture and lifted my head. The students who were approaching me gathered around me, led by a female student. A leading female student with short brown hair wearing a red rose headband. It was a very familiar face. Fufu. After all, you look best when you roll on the floor. The woman with an arrogant smile at me was Rose Red Rivera, who came in the same boat as me. Rose Red Rivera. LV. 55. Race. Human. Attributes. Fire. Win. Risk. X. Psychology. I feel inferior and jealous of you. Nah. First semester practical training came to mind. At that time, Rose was grinding her teeth toward me. As Rose entered the second semester, she was demoted from Class B to Class C, purely a matter of skill. So we took the same class in the same classroom. Sometimes when I came out of the classroom and made eye contact, I would frown. I was able to find out by psychological insight that I was feeling humiliated just by being in the same classroom as me. Presumably, Rose was plotting to fuck me. Perhaps from the ship. I had organized the members to torment me. If you listen to the test and decide that there is no problem even if it bothers you, then follow your own plan. As I entered the second semester, the Class D students who had a feeling of inferiority to me flashed through my mind, because part of it was stuck on Rose's side. Really, they are bastards. Suddenly, a vain blonde aristocrat, Tristan Humphrey, came to mind. Fortunately, he was going to solve his own case by the honest means of dalliance. Those guys are really pathetic. Isn't that strange? You and I are in the same class. Even if you were E-class until last semester, you now have higher magical power than me. Doesn't it make sense? Your horsepower is lower than mine. It's probably a C-class. Why are you so cocky? E-class commoners. Rose has low self-esteem. They have a tendency to somehow restore their lost self-esteem, even by beating others down. Therefore, Rosé seemed to be able to satisfy the lost self-esteem by harassing me, whom he despised the most, but who had become stronger than himself. I got up. You are really annoying. Saying so, I took out of my pocket the Soli mushroom, a mushroom that dispels the effects of all spores. It was pulled out on the way just in case, a mushroom that releases spores when it receives a strong blow. Spores don't spread well just by holding them tight, but you can throw them straight to the ground. That moment. Fire generation fire attribute. Chemwan. Whoops. Open. Soli mushroom burned in flames. I felt the heat and hurriedly removed my hand. Soli mushrooms were burned and fell to the earth and floor. The spores contained inside could not even be traced in the bright red flames. It was Rose's magic, incredible reaction speed that could not come out if you did not expect it. He seemed to have even considered the situation in which I had prepared the Soli mushrooms in advance, like a dog. Who are you that annoys me? First of all, you are a commoner. Everyone treats me equally as a place of learning. So I thought you were on the same line as me. Being in the same class? Did you think I was the same as you? Rosé let out a distorted smile. If you leave the academy, you are nothing. Being trampled on by me is nothing but a pig to be glorified. Do you need to know your subject? I got up, wiping the dust off my clothes. What's with those cheeky eyes? Can I shoot another fireball? This time. Luckily, we can't avoid it. Though, if you say, Rosé-sama, please trample on this poor little pig with that dignified body, I'm willing to give you some consideration. Is that so? Even if you say it yourself, you are not shy. I get chicken skin just by listening to it. Whoa. Took a deep breath. I had nothing to say. Well, now is probably the time. There was the sound of something breaking through the grass. I wish I had come sooner. I turned my head toward the sound. Eden, are you here? Ku-wong. Man. What appeared was the little golem samurai. Eden. Rosé and her men widened their eyes to see what happened. I've never summoned a workhorse, and I haven't given any orders. As soon as Eden appeared, he threw the blue mushroom in his hand at me. It was a Soli mushroom. The Soli mushroom that hit my body immediately started spewing out blue spores. Whoops! I took a deep breath. Twisted mana began to flow smoothly again. Ice wall ice attribute. 4. Duk 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 duk. Immediately, he created a wall of ice around Rosé and the others. A thick ice wall that was higher than the ice wall used by Rosé's men rose up. Rosé and the others also looked like they were trapped in an ice wall with only that one side open toward me. Just like I was. The time has come to pay back those wretched bastards. Cheeky. Rosé didn't even have time to understand the situation and stretched out her arms toward me to counterattack. The magic circle of Pillar of Fire was engraved in front of her hand. Another student tried to use attack magic. It was a stupid decision. Frostfire Ice attribute. 4. Hua Then Not. Damn. Because I was already activating the attack magic, you should have used defensive magic. Blue frost flames engulfed Rosé and her men, because the rear and left and right sides were blocked by ice walls. They had to fully endure the cold of Frostfire. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, the power was reduced. If you fall down at once, you'll regret it. As the Frostfire subsided, I saw Rosé and the others lying on the floor. Frostbite and statues appearing all over the body. His body is shivering violently in the extreme cold. It was an ugly result. Rosé opened her eyes and lowered her head and moaned. It looked painful. I strode towards her. Hua! A boy was about to counterattack, so he lightly blasted Frostfire at him. As the second cold flame subsided, he stretched out completely. Now he didn't even have the energy to get up. I was just shivering from the cold and pain. I stopped in front of Rosé and looked down at her. Rosé's face, darkened by frost and frostbite, turned towards me. The teeth were clasping at high speed, and the body was shaking like crazy. Rosé read Rivera? Psychology. I am afraid of you. But what? What? How? From the beginning of the exam, I have Eden on standby whenever I find a Soli mushroom, just in case I accidentally get spores. If you find a new Soli mushroom closer to the center, call Eden and wait again. Bing and Snowdragon have been ordered in advance. If I get spores, bring Eden right away and throw Soli mushrooms at me. For example, if you get hit by a spore that forces you to fall asleep, you'll fall asleep helplessly without even using the Soli mushroom you had prepared in advance. It was necessary to prevent such an accident in advance. So, as soon as I fell in love with Rosé, Ice and Snowdragon summoned Eden. Don't look down. E-class. Commoners, don't look down on me. He blew Frostfire once more. Of course, the power was adjusted so that only a moderate pain was caused. Rosé howling while covered in cold flames because of the basic protection magic applied to the skin. It would not take much damage, but the pain seemed unavoidable. Frost flames fade away. Rosé fell on the floor, wriggling, and started crying. I'm sorry. So painful. Live, help me. When I just looked down without answering, Rosé grabbed the hem of my trousers and began to beg. That would be enough. I didn't want to delay any longer. I turned around and started heading towards the center of Elt Island again. Then, Rosé's expression contorted, and little by little she began to regain her smile. Also, you were all... I'm a noble. I'm scared. You made a mistake? After graduating from the academy, Let me live you in hell for the rest of my life. Ice generation ice attribute. 1. Whoops. Whoops. Ouch. I dropped a block of ice that had been frozen in the air beforehand. Rosé was hit with a block of ice on the top of her head, and then she screamed and passed out. Beep. There was a sound from Rosé's bracelet announcing the failure of the test. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtool.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how arrogant aristocrats are, they would never say things like, "Let's see you after graduating from the academy." It is dishonorable words and actions that tarnish the family name. Because there is an unwritten rule that what happened at the academy must be solved within the academy, even that is ignorable. Also, Rosé doesn't have a crush on her. I hurried my steps,